Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, it looks like we're live. You guys ready, Mr. Bang?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. We'll call to order the March Academy or March Board of Directors meeting for Académie Lafayette. Welcome everyone. Hope everybody's enjoying the nicer weather after the sub-zero deep freeze we had a couple weeks ago. All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is if there's any, unless there's any changes or any modifications, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve, Michelle.
Second, Harriet.
All right, motion second. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Did anybody sign up for stakeholder comments?
No,
Carlos?
no, there was no one
Okay.
to sign up.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the February board meeting minutes.
I move to approve the February board meeting minutes. Gwen?
Thank you, Gwen. Is there a second?
Second, Mike.
All right, a second. Is any discussions or any comments, edits, or anything? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. PTO report.
This is Alana. We have very little, but there is a discussion. We are trying to figure out evening in Paris type situation. We do have we might have a game night that's not going to be the same. It's not going to look the same, but we are trying to figure out if that's something we're going to do at the end of April, beginning of May. And I told Nicole Cube, who's in charge of the EIP, that we could speak about it tomorrow, because as it is right now, we don't have donors or anything like we would in the past because of COVID. So we were trying to do something maybe to raise a little bit of money though, if possible. And then our next PTO meeting is going to be April 7th.
April 7th, you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is that all you had?
That is all I have as of right now. I'm just trying to figure out if we're gonna do something with that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for PTO president? All right. Hearing none. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Head of school report. Mr. Mbang.
Good evening. I can't believe that we are now in March, so which means that 2 more months and the second school year of COVID is over. This week is the last week before spring break, so we will be on spring break for the whole next week. Today, the committee met, the reopening committee. As you know, we meet every other week to discuss how the situation of the COVID and how it's managed and any challenge we have. At this point, we've decided to vaccinate, our teachers will be vaccinated, by the way, in collaboration with Truman Medical Center. the first dose will be after the spring break, and the second dose would be mid-April. We have been discussing about planning for those 2 doses, understanding that generally after the second dose, there are possibilities to have side effects. So the discussion is around whether or not we will be doing a online class, online schools a day, at least the next day, and thinking about whether or not it's going to be half days. We are waiting for Truman to communicate us the slot of time our teachers will be able to be vaccinated those 2 days. So depending on when the slot will be set, unfortunately, we don't have any influence on those slots. So we will know whether or not we will be online part of the day, the whole day, or whatever would be the decision. Parents will be informed ahead of time, as soon as we know it. As you know, K9 students are now back in hybrid. For K8 and 9th grade has been full in person since November, early November. It's going really well there. This last week, we did not have a confirmed case of COVID. We always track our data and see how it's going. Now, just to remind you that middle school and higher school students and teachers are tested for COVID every week, once a week. At this point, we're discussing how to test the teachers in K5. So we will probably start doing that after the school break. As I told you, the reopening committee met today to discuss, among other things, the vaccination, the new variants, and also think about how to plan for opening 4 days after the school break. Not right after the school break, but sometime after the school break. I want to be clear, we are not planning at all to go full 4 days after the spring break. I heard a lot of rumors. I thought my letter last Friday, not this Friday, but the 2 Fridays ago, were very clear. It's very unlikely we'll be having 4 days, and I can say that it's not going to happen. It requires a lot of planning, and we started the conversation today taking into account the fact that our staff and faculty will start being vaccinated, and understanding that by mid-April everyone would be vaccinated, which can be a game changers and would be taken into account in deciding to go 4 days a week. We will also watch the behavior of the new variants, because we don't know at this point what's going to happen, but our desire is to come back 4 days a week, sometimes after the spring break.
I have a question. Have we had it? You're testing these kids. Have you had any kids yet test positive?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. You've had some teachers test positive?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
I'm curious, with the testing, I know it was an opt-in, that families opted in. Did most people opt in to allow their student to be tested, or what's the percentage of students we're testing? Do you know?
What I heard today from the nurse is there's a high percentage of kids opted to be tested. So I don't have the percentage.
And do we yet have a sense of how many of our teachers are willing to be vaccinated? Do we have any read on if the majority?
To date, 22% of our teachers or staff have been vaccinated. I think 12% have received the second dose, 22% for the first dose, 12% second dose, which align with national average and maybe Missouri too. So when a week ago, I think I requested the data regarding the percentage of teachers who wanted to be vaccinated, is around 80%. And 80%, it doesn't mean the remaining 20% decide not to be vaccinated. It's just that there are some undecided there, more decided. The percentage of no vaccine is very low. Hopefully by then we'll have even higher. I think it's pretty high having 80% around that. Yeah.
I think that's good. Okay.
Program. So March the 3rd, we did the parent-teacher conferences online, of course. So we've also, as you know, to come back, we have to survey the parents to plan for when we come back after the spring break, because it requires a lot of changes. If more parents online decides to come on site, it requires, of course, staffing and so on. And I think that our building managers and social workers and counselors did a good job helping us doing that. And of course, working with the principals. It's a lot of work. The one-to-one computer rollout is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders is out. So I'll come back to that for in the technology report studies later. Reading week at Oak and book fair at Cherry is going on. So one thing also we have started doing, I think I told you already, to support struggling kids, students. We have asked teachers to designate some kids, I wouldn't call struggling, but targeted, because it may depend on the reasons why they're there. They may not, some of them may not be struggling, some struggling, but they're not. So we have certain criteria thinking that some of those kids are better helped in the classroom. So we invited those kids to be 4 days a week instead of 2 days a week. Again, I'm saying that it's not about academic struggle, or it's a different criteria we take into account in deciding or inviting those kids to be there 4 days a week. So which of course has some impact on the transportation, and I'm sure, I'm glad that Carlos worked with the bus company, is working with them to provide those 4 days of transportation. As you know, our strategic plan is centered on, of course, diversity, inclusion, and equity, and making sure our schools demographic reflect the population of Kansas City public schools boundaries. And we're working with Adi Hawkins, who has been visiting our classrooms, and also the principals and myself. We have every once a week a book study. The book we're doing now is culturally proficient coaching. So it's really interesting to understand how to support teachers to develop culturally relevant pedagogy and teaching. Northwest Evaluation Association, which is a test, NWA and MAP test will be happening in April and May. NWA is ready for online, on-site too, but MAP will be on-site. MAP is a state test and it's mandatory. This year, DESI required that all the schools administer the MAP test on-site. So it's going to be late. It's going to be in April and May.
Okay. Go back to hiring. How many do we still need?
I'll come back to that later, but
Okay.
I'll come back to that later. I think
Okay.
In terms of needs, yeah.
Okay.
School technology, 80%, 86% of students 6 to 8 to 3rd grade have picked up their Chromebook for one-to-one program. Still waiting for the parents who did not come yet, and so you know, there's still some parents who have not decided. Another pickup day is scheduled for Thursday. Was scheduled Thursday. It should be March. March the 4th, it was done, 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. E-Rate. E-Rate is a federal government program. We are working to file the grant for tech hardware and software, and we're thinking of updating our connectivity. We have more devices now than when we did it a couple of years ago. As you remember, as you know why now, all our 1,200 students use now technology. So we're getting ready to update that connectivity and make sure that we'll be ready to do that. The IT department have been doing tech support for staff and teachers, 1,300 so far at home too. Planning now for 2021, 2022. Every Wednesday, the academic leadership team, myself and the principals, we meet and discuss hiring and what do we need for planning. We already sent the intent to leave, meaning that we ask teachers if they intend to leave Académie Lafayette next school year. So so far what we have is we have 3 people, 2 teachers and another another staff member who will not be coming back. One is a teacher, one is substitute teacher, and another one. So far, it's likely to be more than that if we judge from the past generally. So,
Where are those? Where are they in Oak or Cherry or Armor?
One is Cherry, 2 Cherry, one Oak.
Okay.
2 Cherry, 1 Oak. One of them, in fact, one of the teacher, I would say both of them are substitute teacher. One is a classroom teacher with all the degree, everything, but decided to stay home because she had kids. She used to be our teacher, and then next year, because we're coming on site, she can't teach. She's staying home anyway. So now, as I said, it's likely to be more than that. We have started the recruitment, and already I think 3 or 4 have signed the contract for next year, new teachers. These needs are normal needs due to school growth. Every year, remember that we went from 120 kindergarteners to 210, which means that we went from 6 kindergarten class to 10 kindergarten class. And that big group is moving every year. So every year we need additional new staff, it's new positions. Cherry, we need 3 homeroom teachers and 1 English teacher.
What grades in Cherry?
It doesn't matter. It's you know, we don't. What I say it doesn't matter means when we have teachers, we're going to shuffle them. But because we were going to grow from 4th grade to 5th grade, we will need to staff that class. That's 5th grade class. And also, I think the 3rd grade, because 3rd grade went from 3 to 4, something like that. So, which is clear is 5th grade, Cherry will have 5th grade next year. So we need to find, but who is going to be there? It may be current teachers or new teachers. So, and remember that we always have, every year when we add a grade at Cherry, we split Oaks teachers, because we want the veteran teachers to, some veteran teachers to move to Cherry. So every year, that's what we do. And high school for next year, we need part-time English, part-time Spanish, Mandarin, arts, and 1 science teacher and 1 English teacher, because of the growth moving to 10th grade. Those are new positions. And the last but not least is getting a digital coordinator and instructional technology coach. We're now at a level where we can't outsource it anymore. When I say not outsource, but paying stipend only to do that is a lot of work. So that's what we need for next year. I would say that if the board approves the spending, it would depend on the budget being able to pay for it. Even though I'm sure Jackie is laughing. We're working our preliminary budget, of course. There is a steep deficit to go out of. I know Jackie is a magician. She'll find a solution by the time we submit the final budget in June. So,
quick question. So how many, just how many off the top, or I can't tell with these half positions, how many?
So I would say 3 FTEs and a half for high school and 4 FTEs for K5. 4 plus 3 is 7.5 then.
Okay.
So FTEs, yeah.
And we do have, I missed the finance committee meeting. You guys discussed this, Harriet, the budget and what the cost would be for these positions?
We did not discuss this.
Oh,
we're out of budget. I mean, we are so in the
Right.
hole right now. But we'll type thing. Half means a half day for a Spanish teacher?
No, it will depend on the needs. It may be a combination of what we already have. Example, just giving an example, it's going to be half Spanish teacher. The other half may be replacing something already in existence. Okay.
Okay. Jackie did a preliminary budget. Did she include these already in it when she did her preliminary budget?
Yes.
So, yes, John.
Yes.
To answer your question, yes.
okay.
She did a preliminary budget, and I guess she put a lot of this in there already.
I worked with Jackie on the budget.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we need a motion to approve the hiring of, would you say 7.5 FTEs for K through 12 staff?
And is one admin or?
It's just
So
a staff.
yes, the last one is an admin / instructional coach.
Okay.
This one I talked to you about it a couple of months ago. But again, if you want to know, if you want more information about it, also, I don't have an issue. The teachers, the three teachers for K5, and also the growth for the high school has been in the budget projection.
Yeah.
So what we've done so far is paying stipend to do it now, because we're going to have 2 more grades. It will be difficult for the same Spanish teacher to cover 6th grade to 10th grade. And we already have the stipend that might help us to do that.
Okay, so John, you made a motion, and I'll.
Well, I said I need a motion, so I'll say it again since no one. So we need a motion to approve the hiring of 7.5 full-time equivalent positions from K through 12, and also admin.
So move, Marvin.
And I'll second it, Harriet.
All right, there's a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? None. All right, motion carries.
I have a question.
Yes.
You went on that one, you said you've gone back to the other one where you said you had 4 of the people say they were willing to come.
That's existing stuff.
Okay, so my question is, how many, you've been trying to hire people since November, December, because you knew you were going to have openings. Have we hired anybody, or we finalized anybody?
Yes, I just said that we already signed 3 new teachers, or 4 already signed their contract for next year.
Okay.
Those are based on the needs we know we're coming back. Remember, last year we hired 7 teachers who did not come. So
Right.
3 of those 7 teachers, I think, are coming.
Okay.
Okay. Next, is there
So I
a,
have I have this just reminder. I have this text from, of course, from Heather talking about the vice principal. The vice principal approved for Cherry was approved last year. We
Okay.
just decided not to move forward.
right, that's the same with the development
Yeah,
director and a bunch of other positions that we approved.
yeah, it was approved last year, but we decided to wait for this year to hire.
Okay.
So this is the admissions and outreach. Do you have any question for me, by the way, or any kind of questions? So, Robin,
Yes.
it's your turn.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Robin King, admissions director. I don't know if we're supposed to introduce ourselves or not. So here are the current open seats that we have for the current year. I will add to that for the kindergarten Oak 7 seats. I have 5 currently enrolling at this time. And so we hope they make it through the end. So that should be good news. And then I will add that into the March area that you see. So you'll see the withdrawn and the enrolled.
Wait a minute. So you have 5 that are coming tomorrow. Is that what you're saying?
No, they are currently enrolling. That's paperwork. So I'm getting admission, residency proofs, immunization records. So they're enrolling.
They're enrolling, and so that would increase that 8 plus 5 to 14, or what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As long as they make it through.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, you can move forward. And so for the lottery, so the lottery did take place. We had our in-house lottery, the 25th. And then seats were offered for the lottery on March 1st. That was last Monday. We had 250 apps that qualified for K lottery only. And then at the time of March 3rd, there was a wait list for the K of 45. I offered seats today. And so we're now at a wait list of 31. And this can just shows you where we were in the total apps for February.
So, excuse me a little bit. Those who are looking at the YouTube, is it going well?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I have to tell you, I'm quite concerned about that wait list number.
I am too.
Okay. How can we address and try to get more on our wait list?
Well, we're not the only ones that are having issues. We are meeting with other schools. There is a, what do you call it? A task force that we put together for kindergarten, first grade, and other grades, high school as well. And so we have not met yet because we had to go through the lottery, but I think we'll be meeting real soon, either this Friday. I think it's this Friday. And then we will be discussing just on techniques for all schools in reaching out to families. We know, I'm not an expert, but we know that moving forward with vaccines and all those different aspects will cause parents to be more safe returning to school. You know, I don't know how that will affect students as well, because we know students aren't going to be vaccinated till a certain time. So that's the definite concern.
But I guess my question is, even though I kind of think we should still be in marketing mode to bring kids in. Do we have anything left in your budget or anything like that to to get
I-
kids?
I could not answer that. We had our budget for the lottery. I would need to talk to Mr. Bang and Jackie about that. So I could get approval for that to move forward.
Okay.
So just to clarify, so you think the lower number in applications for us, period, is across the board? It's not just for us, and you think it's related to COVID, or is it okay? Because I was concerned that there just wasn't as much demand. And that's one thing we've kind of banked on, is we always had our full allotment of seats for kindergarten and first grade, and if that's not going to be the case going forward, that's concerning for financial reasons. But if you think it's just an anomaly because of just what the situation we're in with the COVID and everything, hopefully it picks back up next year. That's what I was really wanting to know, is if
And there have been some articles, there was one just a day or two ago that was talking about it being a widespread problem, and the fact that Missouri doesn't require kindergarten. They're showing that a lot of parents are keeping their kids home for kindergarten and it also is COVID related in the articles that I've read. And that was one that was local to Kansas City, but then I was also reading one that was nationwide. It's like a concern everywhere.
Yeah, I think in Missouri, there is a drop of around 3 to 4% in kindergarten enrollment this year across the board. And the drop of enrollment is across the board nationwide. Now, this application is a new things maybe happening. It might be also across the board in nationwide.
We also may want to figure out if we can, send goodie baskets to those 200 kids that we have, and so that we can't, usually we go through 30, 40, or 50 kids before we get to opening our doors. So it becomes a real necessity to try to hang on to the 210 or so we have.
Yes.
And I know it's every time we want to hang it on, but I'm just saying we are really mostly in our financial picture, this could be a real worry starting next year.
Yes,
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was just saying, as I stated, I hope we will see a different trend than what we have now. But go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I was just saying, I think that one of the things we might do is see if we can get with like some of the stations to see if we can do some PSAs, and especially when we're at a point where we can say that, with as much confidence as possible that we're going to be in session in buildings next year, then we can probably try to get some of that free PSA media from, stations around to help get that word out.
And I have had questions where parents have said, is online an option?
Yeah.
And even at this point, we don't know if online will be an option. We don't know if in person will be an option. And so I have tons of those questions. How will it look? I said, well, we can't make a decision on how things will look in August. We kind of learned our lesson last year, of immediacy and changes. So the concerns are out there. And so, yeah, it's just families have to make decisions, major decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say too, that Show Me Casey Schools has done the, data. They have talked with other states as well, and they've said it too. We're not the only, state in this, or the only city, or the only school, in this situation. This is nation as well as worldwide. But I will say our numbers are impressive. I've had others even tell me that they're jealous of my numbers. So I just will state that too. So yeah, and then just kind of along those lines, I do want to make you guys aware, of a situation that did impact the recruiting process. As you said, Harriet, we have to hold on to those 200. I know that, you know, especially having wait lists before and know what it looks like. So just wanted to let you know, just as COVID, you know, impacts, you know, the admissions department, and that's out of my control. I also was it was out of my control that I lost the access to the number for the admissions director during the week of the lottery. And so I did not know that until a parent notified me of that on Thursday. And so I did immediate action. I reached out to our own personnel, as well as everyone that was on the wait list, and directed them to a different number as well as a different email, because there was some things being said of that I was not contacting others. So, you know, just in case, you know, I know you guys know many people too, and that may not, you know, come up at this time, but I want you to know that that was, you know, out of my control, but I did as much as possible to get that rectified. I do have access now to the number. I just need the messages back, because there's no way that during the week of the lottery, I wouldn't have any messages during that time. So if that was a first impression of Académie Lafayette, I tried to remedy that for Académie Lafayette, as well as my professionalness too.
Robin, is the kindergarten not having required kindergarten in Missouri makes sense. Do you have any thoughts on why people wouldn't just sign up, and then if there's no school in August, they could just not pull their, not put their kids in school? There's no deposit required. There's no, any thoughts on that?
Yes, you're right. There are some parents that have said that, there's actually been some parents that applied, got in, and they did just that, but they said, you know what, I think we're going to hold off. Already, I've had that. And then last year, that was really what a lot of people had done, but we didn't foresee that. But a lot of people had pulled out, and some are, you know, in it now. So they reapplied and they got a seat. And so we're going to start the process all over again in August. So yes, you're right.
Thank you.
And Robin, I would just say thank you for everything you do. I know you bend over backwards to really make admissions a success. You do such a nice job connecting with families. So I'm sure any rumors of your unresponsiveness are just that they were totally out of your control. So I would not worry about that. And I would say, as far as our planning goes, I think the sooner that we can get information out to families about what summer school looks like, that will help with our current 210. So if we can say what our summer school plan is sooner rather than later, or at least what we intend it to be, we know nothing is certain in this world. That would help, I'm guessing, with those families that you're in communication with.
Yes, it would. And I mentioned that in our meeting today for reopening. I think we can move forward with this is, okay, so this is just additional. So the first part you saw was just kindergarten. This is the additional grades that we have. So we have 56 apps. This was at the time of the lottery. So I have not updated that since. And then you see that we did have 70 siblings as well. And then our initial breakdown from the lottery, which I can go out the door now, that was our initial breakdown. And then any questions about that?
Yeah, what does returning ninth mean?
So it means our current 8th graders are returning for ALIHS.
We had 38.
Yes. Now, that is intent to return. That's just an initial. It was before they got their offers for their high schools as well. So that's just an initial intent to return.
Okay.
And just to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, so the 270 kindergarten, those are the applications, and then we would add the 70 to it. So we actually have 340, or no, the 70 is in the 270. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I pulled out the siblings out of the total.
Okay.
Good clarification. I wish.
and what in 9th grade, is that the 9th grade that we have going right now?
That is no. The 9th grade under 4th grade, under first grade, those were the applications that we had from the outside.
29 from the outside. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
Okay, the next slide.
Hey, Robin, can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
Have any kindergarten families talked about wanting to repeat kindergarten, or are
Oh,
they
yes.
going straight to first grade? And I mean, it's like, is that accounted for in here, or?
No, it is not accounted for in here. Yes, that is talked about. That will be for the campuses to work on and submit to me. So that has not been sent, but yes, you are right. That will be a number that we can include. I will say I have made room for it in admission, so I'm ready when they are. And so we have some seats reserved, but that will be for the campuses to let me know. So the principals will give me that information. Okay.
I'm curious I have a question actually for Mr. Mbang, if you don't mind. Robin, the last slide, would you mind going back to that last slide? Thank you. For the 10th grade, we have 9. Is that the total number of students that will be in 10th grade at Académie Lafayette next year in the fall? 9?
No, that was just the number of applicants that we have.
New people. Okay, what will be the total? Do we know the total class for 10th grade?
Probably the same thing, the 21. Probably.
21. Okay. Yeah, I was just, when I saw that, I was curious about, fast forward 2 years from now when we have our first graduating class from the high school, what that looks like, how many people are we thinking we might have, and I was hoping those numbers would be solid. So, okay, thank you.
This is new applicants to 10th grade coming from outside.
And then the last one was just the comparison of the apps over the last 3 years. Any questions on that?
I am concerned that our minority apps went down all over the board, but is that COVID?
Yes, it is. Yes, it definitely is.
So we're going to see,
minorities are a high percentage of,
and so kind of we lost, we've been making great ground on trying to balance out or whatever you want to say and getting our numbers up. And we've kind of lost, the class that's coming in is going to be
and not necessarily and not necessarily, it's just the apps in this.
Okay.
And yes, that overall is as well, you know what I mean? Yes. But yes, that is beyond my control.
Right.
We couldn't have, face-to-face, certain things, but we did continue with our, preschool French schools. We did do that with masks. They had classrooms shut down, preschool shut down, but we continued. We quarantined our teachers, but we continued. And then we had virtual fairs as well. I think I had mentioned that in my report last time. So we did do that. I had 2 in a row, if not more. And so we did that. And then I have some contacts with some parents, sending emails and things. So we did what we could. I say we, but I.
Do you think word of mouth or just our reputation is how we get a lot of our stuff?
Yeah, but I just think along with a pandemic just doesn't go well.
So Harriet,
yes.
this pandemic, whether it's schooling or most things, has affected the minorities. The other day we have a discussion with the academic leadership in Kansas City. And if you look at, I was surprised to learn so many things that the reason why minorities did not want even to come back to school in person because of they're more affected because of so many other things happening in the community. You see it here all across the board in the infection and also in the application. I think that what we need to look at, Robin, is going back, working with Show Me Casey and see what demographics were more affected in the application and see whether or not it aligned with what we have here. And in which case, it just means that either they relocated somewhere, or they did not apply across the board. And just to finish, to say that this school year, I have heard that 2,500 students were unaccounted for in Kansas City. Okay, so which is the same as it's an issue that probably citywide systemic change that we need to look at together.
And I would say I've heard other sort of district folks mention that 2,500 is probably a far underestimate. They are just missing large numbers of students in their districts. They just have disappeared since COVID in really, really worrisome ways. So that 2,500 is probably a very, very low estimate from what it actually is.
And we also have a high number of siblings that will affect our numbers too. That did not budge.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate and thank Robin for the whole huge job she's done. Again, as she said, there's so many schools who would love to have the number we have. It's just that doesn't compare well with what we used to have before. It's like an economic downturn. Ours is doing better than most, but we need to look at it and work with Show Me Casey, and maybe at the next board meeting, share with you the data, and we will figure out whether or not it's our school alone or it's across the board, and see what we decide to do to find those students.
So next, actually tomorrow, there is a community forum. It is for pre-K, but I think as we stated, anytime I talk about it, I cannot talk about pre-K without talking about K through 12. So it's an opportunity to be in front of others as well. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. And then the next slide, we will have a preschool open house. So actually exciting news is that our pre-K students will be graduating to go to kindergarten. So I know Emmanuel will be putting something in place for that. It's set for March 25th, I think, or so. And I'll be sending, I need to send that out before spring break, but I know for sure the pre-K teachers will be attending as well. It is in person. So we will be wearing our mask, and they will have, things outdoor. So I talked about, graduation is not going to be March 25th. My bad. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. The open house is March 25th, and it will be in person. And the graduation will plan that and let you know about that as well. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
It's all right.
Oh, and then I just wanted to let you all know that one success that we did have is with the mobile ads that we did have out. So, and I know Michelle, I learned this from Michelle, that click-through rate, the goal is 0.3. And so you can see that it exceeded the goal of 0.44. And you even see the delivery of over 100% as well. And so you'll see all the way over to the right, the click rate, CTR, click-through rate, 0.52 as well as 0.35. And then if you go to the next one, these are the zip codes. So what happens is when they go through our area, that's what was targeted around our buildings, they go through, it grabs them. And even if they go to Kansas and they click through it, it still registers that. So if you see the different red, those were where the clicks were in the areas, and you'll see again the percentages. And if it's above 0.3, great. Right, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then it has the zip codes. And then I think that might be, is that it? I think that's it.
You're awesome, Robin.
Yeah, if any other questions for Robin, I wanted to say, I think I speak on behalf of all the board. I don't know if you read chat comments as well. We definitely appreciate all the work you do and have done, and you're doing a great job, and we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Finance Committee, Harriet, Jackie.
Okay, seriously, I have to follow Robin. I mean, really? That's just, she is amazing. And I know that in talking with other charter schools and finance people that we do have a waiting list, and some of those the online fairs that she did and coordinated were fantastic. So in our finance meeting and our finance reports, we'll go over accounts payable, our DESI basic formula payments, enrollment summary, and the budget impact, and our year-to-date forecast of revenue and expenses, and some general updates. So in our accounts payable discussion at the finance committee, there were some, our first payments for the electrostatic spraying for the fall. We had additional PPE expenses. We had to get some more masks. I didn't estimate well. People are changing masks, thank goodness, 2 or 3 times a day. And then also we had to get some student masks, especially for some of our bus riders. They come off or they lose them, and we want to make sure that happened. There was some payments to a company called Sinochips. I don't know if it's Sino or Sinochips, but that's for our COVID-19 pool testing for Armor. And then, as Mr. Bang said, we're discussing adding the staff at the other 2 buildings. There were some additional CSP federal grant expenses that haven't been requested for reimbursement yet. Some additional SIS costs, which is our student information system, Tyler. We continue, that rollover was significant with the number of students in the 3 buildings and all of the issues with hybrid, etc. And then the recruitment ads were also showing up on that February accounts payable. If anybody had time to look at them or have additional costs, those were the 6 main areas that we went over. We need to approve the February accounts payable.
So move, Harriet.
All right, there's motions. Is there a second?
Second, Marvin.
All right, any questions or discussion on the February accounts payable? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next. So we'll start with the biggest driver to our revenue, which is our enrollment to budget. And as you can see, we have not been at budget since the very beginning of the year. We'll go over this in more detail, but this is just kind of a visual to explain what's going on with our enrollment budget to actual. And we are relating the significant portion of this to the pandemic this year. Okay, next one. So you all have in your packets, you get the DESI, the actual DESI payment sheets every month, which is something that it's important for you to actually see. And we started in July at a little over $4,600. And in January, the report was a little over $7,600. Love to tell you that, you know, this payment that we were receiving was at 94%. So it's like 93.9%, if you remember that from DESI. And now that we are getting 100% of the state portion, that payment is going to go to $8,600 per pupil. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So our forecast that I'm going to go over for you as of February is that we're going to get $8,600 per pupil. So next slide. And if that does not happen, then we will regroup. So if you recall, our budget we started with was $8,500, which was the best information that we had at the time. We continued to use our growth model for our 10-year model, and we expected to enroll a little over 1,200 students in K-8, 8 pre-K, 30 high school. At 95% attendance rate, we thought we'd have 96 students for summer school. At our last meeting, so in February meeting, we were down by 44 students for the weighted ADA. And in our forecast now, even with the enrollment down and ADA down, at least we picked up $400 per pupil from our last report. So it's a little over our budget. If we had only kept, if this hadn't happened and we would have kept all those students, we would be in a lot different shape. But this just shows the impact of enrollment and not so much the dollars per pupil, right? So the under revenue here is $430,000. And if you remember in my report last month, that was about $700,000. So we're going in the right direction with the per pupil increase with 100% funding. And again, you know, the new kindergarten and first grade that'll be starting are not in this number. We'll make that adjustment again in April. And of course, their attendance would only be for the last quarter of school, but those will be included in the next report. Okay, next. So average daily attendance. This is a real hard one to project right now, and we will continue to work on it. This could just flip and go completely opposite, but because of the changes between hybrid and remote and virtual, back and forth, those attendance numbers are going to vary also. So the students that were all virtual from August to December and completed an assessment got 94.5% attendance. Kids that came back in are seated, and all of that attendance happens while they're in the building. Now that we're opening up more, we have more students come back this month, this will adjust. So I'm hoping it will go up. However, so that we don't get overpaid from DESE, I did ask them to, I just estimated at a 94.5% attendance rate instead of our typical year over year 95.5%. I asked them to pay on our ADA at 94.5%. And again, I can make all the adjustments to make that go up. And we will not know that probably till June, till we finally get all the students back in and can look at that average daily attendance. So right now I'm estimating low because we don't really have all the information. Okay, next. So as you can see, our revenue budget to actual has been under all year long. There's a jump there in December, and that was the School Smart grant that came in and the Charter School Growth Fund that just happened to come in December. So those were budgeted throughout the year. That's why that bump is there. It has nothing to do with attendance or students or basic formula. Okay. So summarizing from the revenue from all of our sources. So trying to make this simpler and not having actual and budget and all these different columns. So hopefully Gwen's shaking her head. So we're trying to get to summarizing. But if let's just go to the projected through June, you can see the second line down, that state revenue and basic formula. That is now about a little over $500,000 under budget. And I think last month it was it was 9 something. So we're going in the right direction. And that has to do with the increase of the per pupil payments, but we're still hurting in terms of enrollment. The other big drivers are, we can go through the gifts and grants, annual fund and PA. Parent Association, one of the things that I did in making these assumptions throughout the year was that they would do a similar EIP, bring in the same revenue, that kind of thing. Once we talk and they come up with a different solution, as was discussed earlier, that may change. But again, their expenses for doing those activities are also going to be lessened. Food service. Well, let's go to transportation. So transportation revenue is going to be the same, but our savings are tremendous. Food service from both the state and parents, we decreased it significantly. So like a combination of like 170,000. That will change as people come back in. So we need to see what's going on when students come back in. Still delivering meals on Wednesdays, then that may change. So if you look at the bottom line, this the revenues are about $866,000 under budget. And many of the drivers are the basic formula, gifts and grants, and food service. Not concerned because a lot of those expenses that went down, a lot of the revenue that went down also has amazing corresponding decrease in expenses like food service and transportation.
Quick question. Have you noticed, or I don't know if you've heard, is this affecting every charter school as far as attendance affecting their revenues?
Well, I don't think that it's not so much this driver of being so far under is not so much decreasing our average daily attendance, but it's just in our case, decrease in enrollment. So I think, yes, everyone has experienced that. To get back to a real ADA or average daily attendance, we're going to have to see what happens when students come back. And again, if you remember, there was remote and virtual, and now that students come back, it's their seated attendance that we count for the rest of the year. So it's so crucial that if you signed up for 2 days or 4 days, that those students are in seats. And to do this attendance, I don't think we're going to know until May, till we see the students that were assigned the 2 day or 4 day and their attendance rate. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So you're asking about attendance versus.
I just didn't know if it was a trend, like all the schools having attendance and enrollment issues causing their revenues to go down, or if it's something that's affecting us more.
No, it's across the board. And so, there are some schools that have never had in-person attendance yet, right? Still haven't had in-person attendance. So they have some decreased operating expenses, and all of those students, as long as they stay enrolled and do their assessments, will be 94.5% attendance rate. What we have is a combination of that remote students coming in, going back to remote, changing to hybrid now after spring break. So it's just a little more difficult to pinpoint what our average daily attendance is. But yeah, I think it's the same for many schools. Those that were remote the entire time will know that they get pretty much 94.5% attendance. And other schools, public schools, non-charters, don't have the same significant impact unless there are schools that are growing schools, because they're going to be able to choose the highest average daily attendance of the last 3 years to get paid on this year. So if they went way down and they had problems and they had higher weighted ADA last year, they'll be paid on that higher weighted ADA. Charters don't have that same form of attendance. Okay. Any other questions on that revenue? Expenditures to budget. Again, this is just a visual to show that one of the things that's going in our favor is our controlling expenses, and in several areas, 2 big drivers that we'll talk about in just a second. Okay, next. So if you look at the top line, our biggest driver is that we were under budget a little over $600,000 in salary and benefits, over budget in teaching resources, under in parent association expenses, and again, it was a corresponding decrease in revenue. Audiovisuals and computers was under, but I think a lot of that got captured in those teaching resources, and that had to do with non-budgeted Chromebooks and also change in coding. And that's where we pay in teaching resources. That's where the pass-through payment for our pre-K program is coded now. So that made that over budget. Same thing with admin tech services, the Chromebooks. And then the next biggest driver is transportation. So, to be under expense budget for over $400,000 in transportation. And we did the best job we could to estimate really going back up for March, April, and May in transportation. We used actuals through February and then estimated that we'd get back to many more buses than we have right now, which is about 8. Again, food service way under budget, and that is corresponding with not as many meals eaten because they're not in person. All of our other expenses, and so if you look at the bottom line, we are $750,000 to the good on our expenses. And so that's what's helping with this bottom line. Okay, next.
So I want everybody to realize we've gone from a $500,000, in November, we were 800,000 in the hole, and now we're about 100,000. I imagine, John, you once asked me what I thought. I bet we end up breaking even.
We're getting closer to break even, but we're not there. And again, there are still two big factors out there. We understand that we're getting funded at 100% where we use the $8,600 for the rest of the year. And the second thing is that attendance. Once students come back in and all those seated students, and you know what happened, and when it got cold, of course, we made some alterations too. But again, sometimes you're like, you know, it's only 2 days. It's so cold today. I'm not going to bring Johnny in, and that really is impactful for our attendance because they decided to come back in person, and that's how you determine your ADA for the year. But yes, this is going in the right direction until we have to make some, and again, talking, we'll have to look at the PTO expenses and PTO revenue and make some adjustments there too. And, trip fund, for instance, our expenses are nil because the students aren't going. So that was a $78,000 pickup right there. So no revenue and corresponding expenses. But yes, going in the right direction. Okay, next. So here's the bottom line. Let's just go straight to the right side, the projections through June. That our operating revenues over expenses about 240. Then we have to pay our capital expenses and debt service of a little over 350. And the bottom line is what we're projecting right now with the information that we have is a negative 114,000. And last month that was 650,000. A couple months ago, it was over 700,000. So that funding 100% of the basic formula state portion really made the impact. If we hadn't had, if we had met our enrollment expectations, then we'd be to the good, like over 200 and some $1,000. So, this pandemic obviously hit all of us, and getting to this number is a little more, it makes you put a little bit more at ease to not looking at that, having to get into reserves. We were talking about what last month, over $600,000. So right now 114 makes it a little more palatable. And again, remember that's $400 per pupil difference than what our projections were. Any questions on the revenue? Okay. Next. All right. So as we said, as Mr. Banks said earlier, we're working on the budget. We have all those positions budgeted because this was part of our growth plan. We're still working on some of that. One of the things we didn't do this year is do a preliminary budget in March because there's just we don't have enough data. Talked to many other schools, and until next week, maybe even after spring break, we won't have any data provided from DESI about what we can start using for a basic formula for next year. We need to look at those intents to return to determine our starting enrollment. Summer school is absolutely crucial again this year for not only for students who need to get caught up, but also for our budget. So summer school is again a very crucial piece of this budget going forward. I think last month I told you we were getting another we have $400,000 allotment from the ESSER 2 funds. That revenue is not shown in this budget because we won't We won't get it until we spend it. So you spend it, you turn your receipts in, and then ask for a reimbursement. So in that, in the ESSER 2 funds of $400,000, we had some current needs you all approved, for instance, the oak window upgrades. So that would come out of there. There's some electrostatic spraying bills that we estimated and that came in February, and then the COVID pool testing. And I'm estimating for the rest of the year that'll be a little over $80,000. So that leaves 300 and some thousand. And the ESSER 2 funds, I think we talked a little bit about it last time, but they were distributed based upon your Title I population. So there are schools, there are a third of our size who got the same amount of money as we did. So that distribution was based on Title I, but not the fact that the schools who are open like us numerous times, and transportation, cleaning, PPE, all the things that went with opening buildings, did not get money based upon the number of students affected by COVID, but the total just based upon Title I. So
that was fascinating and maddening to read.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know what the next round will be, so I just assume that the same kind of thing. There's a disparity of something from like some schools got $200 per student and some got $13,000 per student. So, I don't know how that was decided, how those funds were expended. Anyway, so next one. I think we're done. Is there one after that? Oh, anyway, just some additional building expenses, I guess. Oh yeah, forecast we did based on 8,600. We do have some additional building expenses that just happened after we'd done our forecast. The oak staircase crumbled on the oak side of the building, and we're getting bids on that. Food service, again, there's some billing and data entry needs in our new Tyler system, and we're having to go back and fix some of those because some of it's delivery on Wednesdays, and then we have in-person meal attendance. So, and again, I decreased our ADA request to DESE to 94.5% from 95%, and this attendance will change significantly once we do the in-person, get all these hybrid changes. And one of the things I know that we did as a school was to talk about really looking at attendance and having an independent audit, so that we have a third party really looking at how we're dealing with attendance changes during this pandemic. And I don't have anything else unless any of you have a question or any clarification.
Hey, Jackie, this is Marvin.
Yeah.
First of all, great report. Appreciate the information. So are we looking at the second round of PPP funding at all?
I don't think so. The last time I looked at it, the rules had changed a little bit, and we didn't qualify. Now that next round of ESSER funds, I don't know how it's going to be distributed again. I know there's money for summer school and building improvements and COVID-related expenses, but if it's distributed the same as the ESSER 2 funds, again, we won't get quite as much. But the PPP, we did not qualify. I have not seen the most recent release of requirements, so that's a good question, and I will look at that tomorrow with Westbrook.
Okay, there was an update, I want to say last Wednesday or Thursday on the PPP eligibility. So okay. we just might want to take a look at that and see if there's any additional financial support that we can get.
Good point. I will definitely do that because that first, the second round that came out, we did not qualify. And I talked to Country Club Bank. I'm glad you brought that up. I should have put this in as one more bullet point that we haven't had the forgiveness paperwork from Country Club. They were really working on it and had done all the 500,000 and then the next step. And so we were just at that last step, and they hadn't finished all that paperwork yet. So we're still waiting to hear on that. But I absolutely will call tomorrow and see on those new updates if we're eligible for any of that.
Did the deadline already pass for parents to choose whether they were coming back for hybrid?
Good question. I don't know.
Yes. The last day was last Wednesday.
Okay.
So at this point, we're working on reorganizing the classrooms and grouping kids for after spring break. One thing I want to clarify, Pam, you asked me, not Pam, Harry, you asked me a question about the number of middle school kids being tested, COVID tested a week. I think it's you, Harriet. I just received information from the nurse is just over 100 students at the middle school level.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I know it's yeah. So development.
Well, when we need money, let's talk about development. I've just got one slide. It's a pretty short report. The good news is Celia is here, and Celia is going to be absolutely amazing. She's been here, 2 weeks and 1 day, I think. And so her onboarding is in progress. It started, we had our regular committee meeting, but she's kind of getting in she at that time was getting in the thick of kind of understanding things. So we said, let's regroup in 2 weeks. So we're regrouping then, but we've been in a ton of contact since then. She is amazing. She is a planner. She is organized. She has all of these ideas. She's already got a strategic plan outlined, developed through next year. I think it's actually, she's targeting like through maybe December of 23. She's already identified, I've got this laundry list of gaps that she's identified to understand, to plug into the strategic plan. She's already developed like a monthly committee meeting agenda outlined with accountability measures and analyzing the committee members to figure out, okay, who can do what on the committee? Where does she need this person? What additional needs does she need? Tomorrow we've got, Tanya and I have a Donor Perfect meeting. She's already been in Donor Perfect, has done some analysis, is looking at, who our top donors are, how much we've been getting, other things that we can do. We talked today about planning our next annual fund email appeal. She's been introduced to Nicole, the EIP chair, and she wants to figure out what she can do to help with that and help make it the best that it can. So, I mean, she is all over things. So she's really trying to see, even though she's working on the plan for next year, she's also trying to see what can she do to help bring in money yet this year, even though she's, brand new. So we looked a little bit at the analysis of like the annual fund this year. What's great is we still have a lot of people giving. It's just, as you would expect with the economy and COVID, that the individual dollar amounts are down, but we still have a lot of people supporting the school, which is great, but there are a lot more still to get to. And I mean, great hire. She's going to really make a huge difference in terms of helping raise funds. So very excited to be working with her.
I have a problem that I'd like for the development committee to maybe handle.
Yeah.
In the finance committee, we have a fund that we would like to close out.
Yes.
And one of the things is that people gave money 4 or 5 years ago for our Cherry expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And we promised them tables or benches or get their name on the, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was like name a table or name something like that.
Name a table, name a bench, name a something. Yeah. We need to do that and bring a closure because we have this money that is and we need to and development, we can't seem to get it done. Okay, so the development committee needs to take it over and figure out how, find the names, the list of the names they gave, and talk to Jackie about how much money, and put up picnic tables and put those people's names on it or whatever. Some of the schools would like picnic tables for places to go eat. We need to get that done. And it's been 5 years.
All right, I will definitely put that on the agenda, and Jackie, I can follow up with you because I assume that that campaign was called something. And if it was 5 years ago, it should be tagged in Donor Perfect. So Tanya, we can look at that with Celia tomorrow, because the scary thing to me is identifying those names and finding where those are, but I would imagine that they're tagged in there.
So is it a line item budget, Jackie? You could just pull over.
Yeah, that's all
give us
the capital. That
contact
was
name
called the capital campaign. Yes.
Okay.
That was
then
the
those
Of
capital.
the year, and make sure we have the right years, because we want to go back to the right spot. Yeah, we can work on that for sure. Thank you for bringing that up.
There are definitely things tagged in there as capital campaigns. So is there only one capital campaign that there was, or can you give me the dates that started at least? So we have those.
Yes, I'll give all of that to you. Yes.
Okay. Harriet, we'll do it.
Nice.
No, what I tell you is Celia will do. I mean, we'll work with her. We'll support her as a committee, but I guarantee she'll be like, give it to me. I'm on it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Is she going to start attending our board meetings starting here shortly?
I believe she is.
Yeah, I was expecting her to see her tonight, so I don't know if something changed.
Well,
or
I had talked with her.
Get in, or
I had talked with her today, and she didn't have that on her calendar, so I did let her know about those. So I believe that she is.
Yeah, I think we all love to meet her in person. All right, thank you. Great job, guys.
I can do the diversity committee report since Kelly isn't here. So you all heard Mr. Imbing talk about the work that's going on with staff and admin related to diversity professional development. So that work obviously continues. The diversity committee over the last month was focused on interviewing and identifying new members to add to the committee. So we have added 2 new parents, and there will be a rep from each of the buildings as well, so that it's both our parents and our staff in the buildings participating in that diversity committee. So we're excited to add those 5 new members. And then at the end, probably the end of this month, we're going to be talking about it later this week. We'll relaunch those parent discussion series that you all remember last semester focused on the history of race and engaging in dialogue with our parents on a monthly basis related to a documentary. We haven't identified the exact topics, but those will probably happen. We'll do 3 more of those parent series this semester. And there's also a task force that is convening to just talk about how do our parents create an inclusive environment for all of our families as well. So whether that is our PTO events that happen and how can those take place in more inclusive ways, or what's the role of a room parent in sort of creating that culture inside the classroom for families. So those are some of the things that the diversity committee is working on currently.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you, Beth.
Yep.
Governance, you're still on the
Okay, I'll go again.
still on the mic.
So we have one small new policy that we recommend adopting. And again, this came from Doug Thaman. You all will remember he's trying to really encourage all charter boards to have similar policies that we follow. This one is in relation to military children specifically. So won't have a big impact, but it has to do with just the fact that, you know, if you have a military child who needs to live with a non-custodial parent, they would still be able to use that non-custodial parent as their address, little things that come up for military children. And so the recommendation is that we adopt this new policy. Anything else you would add on it, John?
No, I don't have anything to add. Anybody else have any questions? I believe it was
How many, I was just curious how many military families are currently in enrollment like this would affect, or do we have a number? Do we track that data?
It's a good question. I don't know. Mr. Mbang, do you know?
No, we have no idea. We don't track it. We don't.
I don't think we track it, and I don't know if there's that many.
No, it's very limited.
But if you had someone, that is a policy that I think is in the new policy manual that we haven't quite finished. If you had somebody that put that down, then we would offer a seat based upon that new policy.
Yep.
What specifically do they have to put down on the form? That they're just active military?
Correct. It is for any active military.
So that means they can live in Kansas. They can live in Kansas and go to school here.
If they are if their parent is deployed and they are staying with somebody who is not a custodian of theirs, but they're staying because they can't live with their parents, then yes, whoever they are living with, we would count that as their.
Thank you.
My read of the policy.
Thank you.
But when we enroll our students in Schoolment or I don't know if it lives in Tyler, didn't we put our place of employment? So couldn't we pull that database didn't we as parents put our place of employment and contact phone number? So I wonder if we could pull that and see if there's any.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that would track somebody who might be in the reserves, for example. I mean, there's people that I work with in a law firm that are lawyers, but they're in the reserves. And if they get deployed, they're gone, so.
Yeah, okay.
There's no other questions. I take the motion.
Yeah, I just wonder about enforcing it. I mean, it sounds good. Just the reality of it, just making sure we accommodate it if we decide to go forward on it.
All right. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Marvin.
Second, Harriet.
All right, motion second. Any other questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Do we have anything else?
The other item I'll mention is just that in the newsletter last week, we did start to promote for the parent-elect position. And so they will be collecting letters of interest for anybody interested in that. Council Nicole will do the interviews as they always do, narrow it down to 2 candidates that will then get voted on, I think, in early May to finalize who the next parent-elect position will be. And I think other than that, we're just continuing to seek out new potential board candidates for our open spots. So we have some people who've come to us through SchoolSmart KC and their initiative to recruit new board members that we're in the process of connecting with.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'm laughing because Tanya's camera had a big finger on it. it was distracting me. Sorry about that. I didn't have any. No, that's okay. That's the joys of Zoom meetings.
Yeah, when you're on your phone.
Oh, you're on your phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything really. There weren't any updates that I saw come through from the fix the glitch legislation. I'll make sure I forward that to everybody when I do get it. I don't really have anything else other than, I'm sure just as the students are ready to get back to school, I know some of us, maybe not all of us, are itching to get back in person. So I'm sure we would like to have a meeting at some point. Maybe we can even have an outdoor meeting. I don't know if that would work, but once the weather gets nice. But I don't know. Well, I guess we'll just play it by ear. We're probably looking at the summertime though before we ever meet in person again though. So
I have a question, John. Have you gone back to work?
no, I'm still remote the whole time. I mean, I've gone into my office a couple of times, but maybe 10 times in a year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So.
But you did cut your hair.
I did cut my hair. Yes.
That's what made me ask the question.
Well, no, I think I was just getting. I was seeing myself on some of these Zoom calls, and I was like, "Oh man, I don't look professional at all." I mean, it was just getting really big and unruly. So I was like, "All right, let me."
I thought maybe you were going in 9 to 5 again, and
Yeah, no, I cut it just in case I needed to, but I was like, I'm not going to cut it all the way off, but let me trim it back a little bit. So.
My other thing is this report you all are putting out gets better every month. Whatever we call this thing that you're all producing, that the administration's producing, that we go through. The finance gets better. MBank's report, everything gets better. It really is. We've come a long way.
I think I don't know when we started. Was it right before we started going 100% remote on these meetings? But we were starting to have a PowerPoint presentation, and I think it's a work in progress. And I agree with you. It keeps getting better and better each time.
Well, that's Mr. Bang on Sundays. He still needs to have somebody hand this off to somebody eventually. So when we're looking at that budget, I keep encouraging that.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you, Harriet. It's
really is.
We're trying to do our best. Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else,
John, I have one more comment.
Oh, sure.
Regarding the military policy that we just passed, is there a way to also broaden that without creating a serious problem? Because I mean, there are other children that face with no fault of their own, they have to move, and even if it's temporary, like a deployment would be somewhat temporary. Is there any? I just seems strange that we would only do this for military and not for other instances when children have to move across the state line and it's of no fault of their own or their parents. I'm just for further meetings, maybe we should think about if that's possible, what the results of that policy would be like, how many students that would affect. But just my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for mentioning that. I know that once I'm sure the military has an exception or a carve out in that, if someone were to try to enforce the state laws against us, that would have not be as controversial. But I think you start broadening it, you start tiptoeing the line of admission standards and things like that, whether or not you're in or out of the district. I don't know if our council's on, but maybe we could put that on the agenda for down the road to just kind of see how far we can expand that in what situation. I think we do have policies with kids who have, homeless or some other type of situation. I think we definitely have policies for that, and obviously I'd have to look at the statutes, but I think there's exceptions for that as well. But I don't know. As far as expanding it, we'd have to look into it and see how far we could go. All right. Any other?
Yes, John, I have one more observation or a comment. The focus on attendance, if we could do something to be a bit more explicit to the parents about the importance of attendance and that the financial impact when kids don't come, like, oh, it's cold, or, and they don't come for 2 days for whatever reason. I just think that we have danced around it, it feels like to me, about the connection to when they're there, we get paid, and when they're not there, that money doesn't come in. That's my understanding. So I just wanted to ask what kinds of communication pieces could that be spelled out a little bit more? Because I do remember a comment Michael Bland made I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, Michael, was it, when you were talking about summer school and you're like, oh, I didn't realize, and we're on the board. So just whatever we could do to encourage the attendance, especially as we transition to be more in person.
Yeah, I don't know if we have we done something like that, or I don't know if I thought
And I
we
know
did something like that,
It's been
especially with
mentioned
summer
in
school.
right. I know it's been mentioned in the newsletter, the importance of when you do return to in-person in being there. I don't think parents understand the weight of it. I think what helped send the message home around summer school was there was a number we put to it. Because of lack of attendance in summer school, we lost X 100,000. I mean, it was a large number. I don't remember exactly what it was. That sort of started to hit home with parents to have more specifics as opposed to just saying it matters. So if there's some way we could, be more clear, because I don't think they understand just how big of a deal it is.
Yeah, it would be nice, like even a kind of a standing section in the newsletter. So it's a constant reminder. I know there are some parents, there'll be chatter online about it, and they'll reinforce, the attendance thing. But I know not everybody's on social media, so a little standing entry would be really good.
And
If we just put the number to it.
Just to clarify, I think what Tanya was referring to, I was talking about how like even partial days are counted. I think that's what I've been aware of the attendance issue for quite a while, but I actually 8 months ago, I don't think I was aware that if you pull your kid out for a dentist appointment or whatever, you don't get full credit, even if it's only like an hour at the end of the day. So
yes, thank you for that clarification, Michael.
Thanks, Tanya.
I just think put a dollar number to it, just to be, and then also perhaps on the reward side, we may do this already, of just the attendance, perfect attendance, and highlighting names of kids who have really kept up. So just whatever we can do to promote it.
All right. Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Well, hold on. We didn't have anything for closed session, did we?
No, we were supposed to have a AL Leadership Committee report today, but I missed the meeting last week that we were supposed to have. So we'll push that one to next month's board meeting. I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, no, I saw the emails going around. So, okay. All right. Unless there's anything else, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody. See you next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mr. Mbang, end the YouTube on Zoom.
Yes.
In the YouTube on Zoom.
Oh, okay.